All right, example 1, solve for m. Now, what I want you to remember about these abstract equations, this is important only after I get the equation in the simplest form possible, which is no fractions. I don't want fractions in these problems. And the only other thing we're going to add to this as far as difficulty is concerned is we're going to throw some parentheses in the mix down the road. Okay, so right now there's no parentheses. So our priority number 1 should be the fractions. Looking at the fractions that we have, x and m are the denominators. So xm is the least common denominator. All right, k is not a fraction, so it has no bearing on the least common denominator, so xm is the least. Now, keep in mind that when we divide, we got to multiply the result times the top. For the first fraction, when I multiply this times this, the m's are going to cancel, or sorry, the x's are going to cancel. M is left over. That's supposed to multiply by the top. The top is a plus b, which is more than one object, so I'm going to put it in parentheses. All right, so I want to make sure m multiplies not just by a, but by both a and b. When I do xm times y over m, the m's are going to cancel, leaving me with the top y times x. And then when I multiply k times xm, no fraction at all, so nothing happens except for just straight multiplication, kmx or kxm, take your pick on what order you want to put it in. All right, so that's priority 1. Get rid of the fractions. And then I also want everything as simple as possible. So in this case, since I got this binomial multiplication, I'm going to do distributive property there to make am plus bm plus xy equals kmx. So priority 1 in a rational function or in an abstract problem is get down to this level. Just a bunch of terms. Some of them contain the letter we care about, some don't, but that's what we want. We don't want fractions, we don't want parentheses, we just want a bunch of terms. Then, this says solve for m, so everything containing m, it's more important than everything else. So am, bm, and kmx are all more important than xy, so you want to separate the important from the non-important. I can either move kmx to the left and xy to the right, or am and bm to the right. What do you guys want to do?
A and B.
All right. Move am and bm to the right. So what happens then, xy is staying right where it's at on the left-hand side, equals, kmx is staying right where it's at on the right-hand side, so it stays positive. So xy stayed positive, kmx stayed positive, and they're both in the same place in relation to the equal sign. xy on the left, kmx on the right. am and bm are moving to the right, so am becomes negative am, and bm becomes negative bm. So we do a separation again. Whatever this letter is, everything containing it needs to be combined to one side, everything else on the other side. Then we're going to rewrite the side that doesn't have m. The side that does have m is a common factor, so we take m out. We're left with kx minus a minus b. Simply pulling the m out of every object in there. And the last step is the step that a lot of you are getting to that point in these problems that we've seen before with the easier, now that we got the binomials, it's a bit more difficult. But here's what anybody who's getting it wrong at this point is doing. They're dividing not just by kx minus a minus b, but also the m. Okay, don't divide by m. Just divide by the stuff that isn't m. So kx minus a minus b is what we're dividing by. So kx minus a minus b is what we're dividing by. That cancels that. The answer is m equals that expression, xy on top, kx minus a minus b on the bottom. If at the point where we made the decision to move am and bm over to the right, we had decided to go the other route, kmx to the left, xy to the right, we would have ended up with m equals negative xy on top and a plus b minus kx on the bottom. That's also a correct answer. Keep that in mind if we are verifying answers in the back of the book, that they sometimes go a different direction on this step. This answer is just as good as that answer. They're both correct. So don't change anything on your paper. If you have this and they have that, just know they're equal to each other, using the back of the book as a checking tool.